Hey everyone, welcome to my first impressions video for Dragon Age Inquisition. This is the third installment in the series and probably the final one we can expect from Bioware for this game. Now for this video I'll be taking you through the early gameplay, the character creation process, as well as some of the options you have at the very start of the game. Now for the videos I captured, since DirectX has been very buggy, it's pretty much a known problem right now for PC users. Uh, I decided to turn on Mantle. Unfortunately, that Mantle doesn't have the API enabled that allows for recording in-game footage. So what I did was to basically capture my desktop and have the game itself under a borderless window interface. So in effect, the footage might not be as good, or it doesn't really match what I really see in game. And man, this game really looks good. Anyway, let's jump into the options you can take from the main menu. All right, as with most games nowadays, and it is highly recommended that you tweak your settings before you even get into the game. Um, Dragon Age 3 or Dragon Age Inquisition actually uses the Frostbite engine, which is similar to, I believe, what I've seen in some videos for Battlefield 4. Yeah, you do have a host of graphical settings that you can change up. Um, you can even opt other settings. You can even opt not to log in to Origin and Dragon Age Keep as you start up the game if you find that you don't need that at all. Um, yeah, there's really a lot of settings you can change here. As you can see here right now, I'm just going through them. There's a lot of variety in the things that you can do. Earlier on, you also saw that I could actually switch on to the Mantle API if you're an AMD user. Now, for those of you with AMD cards, I just have to you just have to make sure that you are updated to the latest driver for your GPU. And right now, I'm showing you it should be 14.11.2. Without this driver, you won't be able to see the option to enable Mantle. And as of right now, as I'm doing this video, there are a lot of issues with DirectX right now. You're seeing a lot of crash to the desktop concerns. So yeah, it's highly recommended that you go into, if you do have the option to do so, make sure to turn on Mantle so that you'll experience well, at least for me, I haven't seen any crashes so far using Mantle. So yeah, for AMD users, I would recommend that you do update your drivers and make sure to turn on Mantle. Okay, now let's move on to the character creation process. So you do have your standard races like the human, the dwarf, and the elf. Uh, I'm not sure if it was present in Dragon Age 2, but now you have the option to pick a Kunari. So that's pretty good. Actually, the model for the Kunari is pretty big and it's quite bulky. Movement's a bit slower, but yeah, that option is available to you right now. In terms of the classes, while you're seeing 5 cards being laid out right now, just moving left and right, essentially it's just 3 classes. You have your rogue, your warrior, and your sorcerer. Sorry, your mage. And it doesn't really matter which one you pick when you create your character. Let's say you pick a warrior that's sword and board. You'll still have the option to pick talents that are geared towards two-handed weapons later on in the game. So yeah, uh, I just don't know how that will play out in the long run, but yeah, you do have that option. In addition to that, you also have you can also pick the difficulty level of the game, of the combat. So if you're just interested in the story, pick normal and maybe even casual. Now, if you really want a challenge in everything that you do, pick the nightmare modes or the harder difficulties. Now, before you can actually proceed to further customizing the looks of your character and changing the way, well, a host of different options for your character. You also have to confirm the default world state of Dragon Age or how Thedas is as you left it in Dragon Age 1 and 2. It really allows for a different number of options, going through your tapestry. You can even, say whether the warden for Dragon Age Origins was alive or dead at the end, whether certain major characters you were able to save them or eventually kill them off and the first two installments. So it's really up to you how you want to customize the world of Thedas as you enter an Inquisition. One thing to note though is that what I did was to I tried to set that Lelena was dead in Dragon Age 1. Unfortunately, she shows up still. She still shows up in Inquisition. So I'm not sure whether there was actually a backstory there that maybe she was brought back to life, or I don't know. Maybe it's just something you can't really change for Inquisition. But yeah, for those who really want to customize their characters, I would strongly suggest that you go through your tapestry in DragonAgeKeep.com and just make changes as you need it. I'm not surprised if it turns up in conversations. Some companions will tell you how things went for Dragon Age 1 and 2. But yeah, for further customization, I strongly suggest that you go through your tapestry. After confirming the world state, you can now proceed to customizing the look of your character. Now, there's really a lot of options that you can take. Um, you can change basically the eyes, the nose, the hairstyle you have, the color of the hair that you use. If you like it, your character can also have some tattoos, or maybe have some battle scars on his face. So while it is varied, and just me, I just noticed it that for the female and the male hairstyle, at least for the humans, I haven't tried out the one for the Canary, the Dwarf, and the Elf, but they're basically the same hairstyle. The same colors, you can also use them, so I'm not sure why that is. I was hoping for more variation for the hairstyles that you could use for your character. But yeah, that's one thing I've noticed. Basically, the hair style and hair color for the male human and the female human is basically the same. Um, One other thing, and it just might be a small thing, it's just that the voice that you can use for the male or the female characters are, you basically just have two options. It's either just a, you have, on one hand you have, sort of a deeper type of voice, and on the other scale you have something that's a bit lighter and a bit more casual sounding. So it's basically just two choices for any kind of character. I tried out the Kunari also, and yeah, whatever voice set that you had for the humans is also the same for the Kunari. So I'm not sure why that is. I just wish they offered more variation. I'm thinking back to games like Neverwinter Nights, and you had different voice options for that. So I'm really hoping. Well, I was really hoping that they had more options. But in terms of facial features, the color of the skin, and the other things, yeah, there's a lot that you can choose from. Um, so I don't know if it's a trade-off or anything, but yeah, it's very rich in options in terms of how you want your character to look. But certain areas are just uh, maybe a bit lacking. So there you have it. That's for your, how you customize your character's looks. As with any other RPG, you do level up your character and eventually gain character points or ability points. So it's not so different here in Inquisition. Uh, well, just briefly, since I haven't seen everything, you do get to pick your class at the start, but as I mentioned, you can actually assign ability points to other areas of your character. So let's say, as I mentioned earlier, you were sword and board, you can actually assign points to two-handed weapons. So yeah, you do have those options available to you. It's pretty, it follows a talent tree system, so it branches out eventually into other skills and abilities as you progress and gain more ability points. Okay, moving on to gameplay and the game world. So I said at the start that this game looks good. I really mean it. It's just amazing to look at, especially if you can crank up the settings in your PC. If you have a good enough system, just push those settings a little bit higher as much as you can without, letting your gameplay suffer. A lot of effort was just really put into making this game look good. Uh, the character models, the surfaces on the ground, the trees, the way enemies are animated, the spell casting, the effects of those spells being cast. It just really looks good. I really appreciate what Bioware did for this one. It took a while before Inquisition came out, so graphically speaking, yes, it's nice that they took their time just to make sure that this game looks really, really good. Of course, as with most Bioware RPGs, the conversations you have with your companions or NPCs are very, very important. Just think back to games like Knights of the Old Republic, maybe for a more recent one like Mass Effect. Um, how the NPCs and your companions approve or disapprove of your actions or the way you answer to them in conversations will affect your gameplay. So some things like maybe side quests may be available or not available to you depending on how they approve or disapprove of whatever you've done or how you engage in conversations with them. So I suggest that you take this part seriously. If you are, interested in pursuing certain actions, or maybe, you foresee that certain side quests might be open, or you want to discover the backstory of particular characters in game, I strongly suggest that you try to gear your conversations towards things that they will approve of. Um, of course, it will also have an effect on the other aspects of the game. I'm sure because it's a Bioware game, but yeah, this is just something to take note of. As with all other Bioware RPGs, conversations and your choices are very
That's
important.
a nice crossbow you have there.
Isn't she? Bianca and I have been through a lot together.
You named your crossbow Bianca?
Of course. And she'll be great company in the valley.
Absolutely not. Your help is appreciated, Varric, but
Have you been in the valley lately, Seeker? Your soldiers aren't in control anymore. You need me.
I mentioned that a bunch of side quests will be
this way,
available
down
to
the
you
way.
as you progress
The
through the
road ahead
game.
is blocked.
However, there is of course a main storyline or a main quest that you have to, well, if you want to go through and progress the game in Dragon Age Inquisition. But while doing that, there's a lot of things that you can see in game, and one of them is some loot, random loot that you can see, just scattered all throughout. I suggest that you just go ahead and try and find them. They may be crafting resources that you will eventually find useful as make your or progress your Inquisition. It might also, you might also see some random drops, some loot, some armor, some weapons that you can actually use. So yeah, take the time to actually explore. You never know, you might pick up something that might be useful for your character or your companions or your Inquisition. Okay, now let's get into combat. Um, it's pretty much on the get-go. It's pretty much a free-form combat. You can actually do that. But there's also this option for tactical combat, which means that you can actually pause the combat while it's ongoing and assign certain actions to your character and to your companions. So you can actually pick whoever you want your range character to attack first, whoever you want your sword and board person, that your tanky person to actually go after. Yeah, so it's really useful, especially in certain combat scenarios where it might seem too difficult. So it's I suppose it's highly suggested that you use tactical combat for situations like that. So you can assign, if your squishy mage should actually choose not to attack another range character, or maybe you can just set your mage to just constantly buff and shield everyone. My character right now is an archer. It's a rogue archer, so I just pick off whichever target I want, as long as it doesn't start to attack me. So yeah, you can either opt for again a free flowing combat. Just make sure you're quick, on your movements. Just go ahead and select a particular companion for a particular action, or you can opt for tactical combat, which is slower, but at least you're sure of what you want your companions, your character to do, which ones to attack, and know when to apply certain abilities. So it's really up to you. You do have those two options for Dragon Age Inquisition. One more thing I want to mention about combat in Dragon Age Inquisition is that that mark on your hand, being the herald, as you later as you later find out, that mark on your hand is actually very useful, especially when you're fighting against demons and if there is a rift or a breach nearby. Um, so far, from what I've seen, it can do one of two things. that mark on your hand can actually disrupt a rift, and what that does is that and from what I've seen, it sort of weakens uh, or stuns the demons around you. So that's pretty good. It's pretty useful. The second thing is, I think once you've cleared the area of demons or whatever demonic threat is around, you can actually use that mark on your hand to close a rift or a breach. So yeah, it is really, really useful for this game. So just make sure that whenever you have the opportunity and there's a rift around, make sure to disrupt it so that your combat against demons becomes relatively easier.
What is the Inquisition of
And there
Olympus
you have it.
exactly?
Those are my
It
thoughts
preceded
and
the
impressions
tragedy.
for this game.
People who banded together
Um,
to
I think
restore order
Bioware
in a
really,
world gone
did
mad.
a good one here.
After,
What they
they
wanted to
laid
do was
down
to
their
get the
banner
good
and
things out
formed
of
the
Dragon Age
Templar
1,
Order, but the
the nice and
Templars
fluid
have lost
combat
their
in
way.
Dragon Age 2,
We
and so
need
far I
those
think
who
they've
can
hit
do
their
what
mark
must
from
be
what I've
done
seen.
united under a single
Um,
banner once more.
I hope to keep producing more videos for this game as the
If you're
weeks go
truly
by.
trying to restore order,
And just
That is the
in the
plan.
process really have a
Help
good
us
time,
fix
and
this
I hope that
before it's too
from
late.
what I've seen so far it just continues and builds upon it, and as the game progresses. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. So if you like what you've seen, please don't forget to hit like and maybe even subscribe if you want to see more content from me. Again, thanks for watching.